were in charge. I was personally in charge of the state of Egypt. We always wanted Egypt to be pivotal, stabilizing force in the region that suffers from some shocks in the last few years. And we have never forgotten our role, because we have to be pivotal. We have to work very hard to be a stabilizing force in the region so that our country is ready to be a launching pad for sustainable development goals that we have set for our countries until 2030. In my speech, I have said that we have taken measures that aim at attracting and incentivizing private sector and to better our infrastructure in Egypt. And this is absolutely necessary to have proper investment, proper infrastructure to attract the investment. The infrastructure per se is in itself a stabilizing factor because businessmen, institutions are inclined to come to Egypt to contribute. Egypt has got a policy based on boosting stabilization in the region, not only within Egypt, but even in the regional and international environment as well. We have always had a positive contribution, not only to keep or serve its own interests, but our overall goal is to provide stability in the region, because the region has been prone to conflicts in the last 10 years. Egypt have always had a positive role in the stability in the region as a whole. And once again, in October 2025, through the Sharm el-Sheikh summit, we have dealt with very thorny issues, especially the war in Gaza that lasted about 2 years. And we are hopeful that our positive role will be pivotal in crystallizing the phase 2 of the peace process in the region. Once again, talking about a different point regarding a proper environment investment atmosphere in Egypt. So what I would like to respond is by saying that we have done a lot of things, but we still have a lot to do in Egypt in order to have a proper incentivizing atmosphere to attract foreign investments. We have left not a single stone unturned in order to make all these projects up and running. We have connected the ports from the Red Sea, the Mediterranean Sea. We have a proper road network, rail networks as well, advanced and well developed. And this applies to the airports, to the energy sector. What I would like to say, even in education sector, which is part and parcel of the overall reform of our country, and we have boosted the infrastructure for the universities in Egypt so that to make sure we have graduates that are fit to take the positions open in the labor market. And the same efforts have been extended in the legislative, in the reform, and we are in contact with the IMF. And the last review with the IMF, which was held last month, reiterated the fact that we are on the right track, we as Egypt. And the growth rate that we are looking at is to make sure in the first quarter was 5.10%, and this is an opportunity for the Egyptian government to continue striving and to have better reforms. Once again, I may have spoken a little too much in response to your question, but I wanted to have an overall picture to make sure that the environment, the business environment, is very attractive. We have the free trade agreement that have been signed with Africa, with the Arab region, and we also have free economic zones in addition to the development underway in the Canal Suez, so that we make the movement smoother in these different waterways. Now, if you have projects in hydrogen, in logistics, in communication, in data centers, in pharmaceuticals, and even in education and health, we are ready. We are fully ready to contribute in making these investments a success.
Thank you so much, Mr. President. I think this gave an excellent overview of the region, but also the reforms. We have a few minutes left, so I would like to touch on two things. Let me start with maybe the easiest. It is how Egypt is now also, with the reforms you mentioned, adjusting to the new economic reality, because since last time you were here, a decade ago, no one spoke about artificial intelligence. There were almost no electrical vehicles. Things are changing very much, and the growth in the years to come will be strongest in digital trade and in these new technologies. And how do you prepare Egypt for that? I think you already touched on some of the reforms there that will apply, but just to also focus with such a young population, I guess you also have big opportunities because this young generation is very tech savvy.
صحيح. أنا بس عايز أقول إن إحنا في مصر.
Very, very true. We have had an overarching program plan to make sure the state is ready, not only to attract investors, but also to be ready to overcome any forthcoming challenges. You have mentioned the electric vehicles, and there are other sectors on which we can dwell on. We have said that we are ready as a state to make the utmost effort in order to make sure we have the capabilities so that we incentivize the investors in these specific sectors that are going to be supported by the state. We need to make sure we are the engine for growth in these sectors. And with regard to the electric power, that is absolutely necessary, but also education is pivotal. As I said, I spoke about universities, about the different sectors like digitalization, AI, that are part and parcel of the preparation of the young generation at university. And we have more than 30 million young people in education. We have 4.5 million at university, and we have a huge opportunity because we need to make sure that our capital, human capital, is ready to meet the challenges by providing graduates that are knowledgeable, able to meet the new technology, new tech era. So we need to have youth that are capable, fully fitted with the skills. Egypt is a promising market, and we are eager to make better efforts so that we make headway in all sectors, in all the different sectors you have been mentioning.
So maybe then the last question, I see we have a few minutes left, is about the region, the Middle East region. And as you underlined, I think we all know that Egypt is an anchor. It is between Europe, Africa, and Asia. If you look at the regional developments the last year, I guess there has been developments in Lebanon and Syria that have been moving in a new direction. You have the situation in Sudan and Yemen that I guess will be on the problematic side. So, and Libya, I don't know, I don't want to characterize, I leave that to you, Mr. President, to find the right words. But if you look at the region overall, do you think this is going to be a calmer year, or are we still going to have the challenges? And tomorrow, as you know, President Trump is also launching the board of peace there. So even in Davos, there will be some developments.
If I may, as I said in the introduction, I spoke on different topics indeed. Because I wanted to give a broader overview of the region. In the last 10 years, the Egyptian policy has been stable and always in continuation of what we have always done. We have always believed in the non-interference of the domestic affairs of other states. We also support any region, especially when we call on the to resort to the international institutions for dispute settlement. And therefore, for example, if there are militias or factions that are rampant in some countries and that have a negative impact, and therefore I don't want to name countries per se, because I don't want to raise issues with states, but I mean they know themselves. I mean I don't want to go into qualifying. If we look at Lebanon, for example. Lebanon is on the right path, a new and right path, and I really hope that Lebanon in the coming weeks and days will find the way out and to stabilize the region and to grow the region and to have a friendly government with whom we have always had excellent relationship, because it has been the lighthouse of education in the region. In Syria, there are developments indeed, and we're hopeful that the trend will be encompassing and all-inclusive for all the components that make up Syria. They should all be represented in the government, and there should be no exclusion of any component in the newly established state of Syria. And therefore we call upon all the friends in Sudan, in Somalia, in Libya, in Yemen. We call upon them to work on stability and to make sure there is the principle of non-interference of domestic affairs should be highlighted. So the aim for Egypt and the aim that since 2014 we are working upon is to make sure that the statehood comes back to Libya, to Sudan, to Somalia, to Syria, so that an all-abled state government should be encompassing and should be a stabilizing force in all these countries that I have just mentioned. And we are still working on being positive, constructive, have a constructive role as Egyptians. And the last 2 years where Gaza had that war, witnessed that war, we always have the Suez Canal, which is a major waterway. This waterway has been affected very, very hard by the war in Gaza. And therefore, we as Egypt, we're paying the price. We have lost billions of dollars because of the impact of the war on the major waterway, which is the canal, the Suez Canal, for the last 2 years, up until the end of the war. And therefore, we have been somehow very positive in de-escalation and in softening the tone. This is what happened for Gaza. We have had a very positive role because we wanted to quell the war, to put an end to the war, and to shorten the war. We have always urged for humanitarian aid to achieve to the recipients, and therefore our policy is a positive policy, sticking to stabilization in our country, in the region, and in the world.
Thank you. Thank you so much for your strong speech and excellent answers. I hope there will be not 10 years before we can wish you back to Davos. Mr. President, things have changed, but as the President said when we spoke, not the weather. So thank you again, and big applause to President Sisi.